huge thanks to OK Jazzy. They're your go-to for the 2026 World Cup and an incredible retro archive. They got decades of iconic league classics, from legendary 90s designs to the rarest club heritage kits. Whether it's a high-performance player version or a timeless vintage look, prices start at just £15, 4.5 Trustpilot rating and fast shipping. Use code Chris for 8% off and grab your piece of football history now.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's the first pre-season friendly. Spurs are back in action. Today against MK Dons, we managed to turn them over 1-0. Wasn't a great game, anybody that watched it, but it was just a pre-season friendly. It was just getting minutes in the leg, so we shouldn't probably read too much into it, but wasn't the best game, was it? Let's be honest. We're live on X, Facebook and YouTube as always. So please do get involved and let us know if you watch the game, how you're feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. We'll talk about the transfer window at the end of the show, definitely. So anybody who wants to hear about the transfer window, stick around for that. We got some stats from today's game for you. So overall possession. Bear with me a second while this comes up. There we go. So we got nearly 71% possession for Spurs during the game, nearly 30 for MK Dons. Total shots, 9 for Spurs, 5 for MK, 4 on target for Tottenham, 3 for MK Dons, 738 passes for Tottenham, 290 for MK Dons, 10 fouls committed by Spurs, 9 for MK, 5 to 6 corners and 3 goalkeeper saves apiece. There is a lot more stats you could dive into, but to be honest with you, it's just a pre-season friendly, and it was all about getting minutes in the legs for the players. As usual, I've got 3 very special guests with me today. I've got Melvin back with me. I've got Orchie and Luke. Melvin, all the way from Malta. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Good to have Tottenham back. I know just a pre-season and pretty uneventful game, except for the really nice goal. But yeah, good to be talking Spurs again.
Absolutely. Orchie from, I think you still in Istanbul by the look of your backdrop. That doesn't look like London.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm in Istanbul still. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I was actually there in London about a month ago now. So went to the stadium, saw the new stadium for the first time. Yeah, so amazing, Craig. But yeah, again, like you said, it's a typical, pre-season match, especially, first match. Quite a number of first teamers, not back yet, those that participate in the latter stages of the World Cup. So, a number of players missing. So,
yeah.
Typical first game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Luke, back with us. Luke's in the UK with me, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. Not actually in the stadium. Yeah, good to be back. It's obviously with the World Cup, and it sort of actually feels like football's not really gone away. And my wife actually said to me this morning, "What? There's a football match again? I thought the World Cup had finished." I was like, "Yeah, sorry, love, we're back straight away. No break at all."
That's right. It has come around quick, hasn't it? And, you always knew after the World Cup pre-season was going to be in full swing. And it is a quick turnaround for all the players certainly involved in the later stages of the World Cup. Obviously, the likes of Porro and Romero, Senesi and that are going to be, it's going to be a few weeks, isn't it, before we see them again. But today we're talking about the friendly against MK Dons. Still a few Spurs players actually missing from this, which we'll come on to. Likes of, we didn't see Maddison, we didn't see Kudus, we didn't see any sign of Kulusevski either. Hopefully see them later on in pre-season. But as you say, this was the starting lineup today. We had Kinski in goal. We had Gray at right back, Takai, Davies centre-backs, Kieran Matton at left-back, Gallagher, Tonali and Fernandes in the middle. Solomon, rare out for him in the Spurs shirt, on the right wing, Tell on the left, and Solanke up front. And we'll come on to the substitutes later on because obviously it was complete change at half-time. Melvin, anything you want to make of that starting 11, or is it just simply about getting minutes in the legs? And how pleased were you to see our 2 new summer signings there, Fernandes and Tonali?
Yeah, delighted to see them for the first time in a Spurs shirt. I think the most thing that stood out for me straight away was he played, the three, Gallagher, Fernandes, and Tonali. Reminded me a lot of when we used to have Moussa Dembele, Wanyama, and sometimes Eric Dyer in the middle, like three, like a massive spine. I thought this is probably the midfield three that he will start at Brentford, in my opinion. I think that's the reason he played them together in the first game. I think he wants them to get to know each other. I think that's the first thing that stood out. I think the rest was how much we lacked in attack. I thought Solanke and Tel were a bit. I don't know. Maybe it's early in the preseason and they still need some legs, but it's still early days. But yeah, they struggle to create anything against MK Dons, which we probably should be, tearing apart. But it's still, like I said, it's still preseason. But that's the main thing I saw. When I saw the main three in the middle, I thought this is gonna be how Roberto De Zerbi wants to start. This is probably his plan, and he's laying the foundation of the team, the spine of the team, and the rest will fill in nicely around them.
Yeah, I do tend to agree. It's easy, Orchie, isn't it, to read too much into that first game of pre-season, and we shouldn't. It's just getting minutes in the players' legs. Two new players coming in, one who scored an unbelievable goal, which we'll come on to, but it was just that, wasn't it? It was, if this wasn't broadcast worldwide on Spurs Play, even though Spurs Play was bloody awful, I have to say, this evening, we'd have just seen the result and probably not thought much of it, would we?
Yeah, definitely. I think just, every season, especially the first couple of games, it is all about, getting some minutes, especially if you've had, obviously Tottenham have never been good at getting, transfer targets in before, the start of the preseason. Whereas obviously we're having a summer where we already done some serious business. And yeah, I think it was just a case of, obviously we practically, that back line, is obviously, it's not going to be that back line. Our entire back line was missing today. So I think it was a case of, that just tells you the full story. No Van der Ven, no Van Heck, no Senesi, no Pedro Porro, no Andy Robertson either. No Andy Robertson, no
Spence, yeah.
Yeah, so, pretty much those guys are probably going to be the first choice players come start of the season. So I think this was just the case of, and I think the players are going out to New Zealand is it on Thursday or Friday? I think in the next couple of days. So I think just before the flight, this was just like a quick, kind of like a warm-up session, get those new guys on the field playing with some of the attacking players, because, obviously apparently we're still, going to go out and spend a bit of money, but at the moment, if season was starting tomorrow, with the exception of Solomon, probably that's exactly what our starting lineup would probably look like. You'd probably have Solanke starting up front, Tel on the left, or maybe on the right, depending if there's an alternative for the left-hand side. And as Melvin said, probably you'd have Tonali, Fernandes, and potentially Gallagher, or maybe, again, it was interesting that there was no Maddison wasn't even in the squad. So I don't know if that's just a precautionary thing or if that's just him, getting up to speed. But you would imagine that it's probably. I would have thought if Madders was in the squad, I thought maybe he would probably start with Tonali, Fernandes, and Maddison, maybe, or I don't know. But yeah, I think it was just like you said, just get the new guys up on there playing with some of the first teamers, and probably try a few of the things that they've been working on the last week, 10 days, since they've come back from preseason, since they've come to preseason. And yeah, it was just, kind of like a warm-up game, if anything, if that.
Yeah, totally. Luke, anything to add there about the starting lineup, or was it just minutes in legs, like we've said?
I thought it was funny. There was, I don't know if there's injuries, but obviously we heard nothing of Stuza or Udogie at left back. Do we know if they're injured? Like, they weren't around. Obviously, Van Hecker's only just joined training. But it was good to see Kota Takai actually get some minutes, but no Ashley Phillips. So we can assume that he's probably looking at maybe moving on because he wasn't there today. Obviously, we don't have Vuskovic anymore, so we might have been seeing him, but he's gone. And then, I think Tell.
Do you know what it could be, Luke? Do you know what it could be? Sorry to butt in there. Could it be a case that Roberto De Zerbi wants to look at players that he might want to take on the pre-season tour still?
I think for some of the youngsters, definitely. I think he definitely is trying. I mean, I think we heard a couple of days ago that he's really impressed by Jamie Donnelly. But I think there's still a few that he's trying to make his mind up about. And this is obviously a really good opportunity to get them out on loan now and get them to another club, because the lower leagues start very soon, don't they? The Championship and the League 1 and 2, they're going to be they start a couple of weeks before the Premier League, so they've got a lot less time to prepare. So really, I think making a decision on them, you will probably hear in the next couple of days that a few of them are being shipped out on loan. But, like, for example, Yang in the second half, seeing him on, I mean, he was quite bright and he made some runs, but just obviously ineffective in the end. And he had a couple of good loan spells last year. So he'll be one they're probably viewing. So, definitely fill in those spots. I don't know how many they can take on tour with them. I don't know if they can, if they've got like a limited number. If he's got like an international squad, he's got to take a certain number and he's been told that's it, or if he could take as many as he likes. But I suppose it's kind of, there's not too much point taking lots and lots of them if they're not going to get any minutes at all. And we've got some weird games coming up as well. I mean, like playing Chelsea in Australia feels. Is it in Australia or in New Zealand? It feels a bit odd to
it's
me.
in Sydney, isn't it? It's weird. It certainly is weird. It was weird when it was announced why we're going out to New Zealand and Australia. I thought, to be honest with you, you can't really go much further, can you? Let's be honest. And the two Hoffenheim games, obviously almost completely back to back. You're going to see completely different sides during those friendlies. So we're going to see a lot of changes there. I have to say, I agree with you about Jamie Donnelly. He does seem to have taken the shine to him, which is good that Jamie's hopefully finally going to be getting a bit of a look and a bit of a chance. So we'll see how that one pans out. But as you say, there's other players that could be heading out on loan, because you say the Championship starts. It actually starts the weekend 7th, 8th, 9th. I think not actually with the league. It starts with the first round of the Carabao Cup, which we were this close to be playing in ourselves because we were that close to relegation. Let's not forget that. So, that you're right, that, 2-3 weeks, what's that away? So, you'd think a few of the players are going to be heading out on loan. We definitely have to shift a few players on. As Ali Gold often points out about squad sizes and European places, we're already 4 over in the European places, so we've got to shift on 4, non-locally trained players, or whatever the ruling is or the wording is. So you'd think there's going to be 4 players go out at least that are of foreign. So you'd think perhaps it's going to be Romero, Vicario, Takai perhaps, Sarr even, you hear these names. We just don't know. I think there'll be a big name go out, Richarlison perhaps. But we've got I'm going on to the transfer market here. Let's talk about the game first, because there is a lot to discuss surrounding the transfer market. I'm sure you all want to have your say. Well, the first bit of action, almost in the first minute, it was in fact the third minute, we got this unbelievable strike from our new signing, Matheus Fernandes. Melvin, what did you make of this when you saw this goal?
I actually missed it because the stream was stuck. So I had to, and a notification came up on Twitter, weirdly enough, that we had scored, and then I had to go back and watch it. But great strike from him. I think something that we can expect from Matheus Fernandes and Tonali is shots outside the box. I think it's something we lacked last season, something Thomas Frank famously wasn't a fan of, and I think we have 2 players that can really, really shoot from outside the box. I think him and Tonali together, I think if a ball falls for them, and great strike. I mean, on the volley, Very difficult to do as well. I mean, I've tried a few.
Yeah.
I've tried a few of them, and they just end up going into row Z. Very difficult. I mean, I play a bit of football. I still try to every week, and but to get it in a preseason friendly is one thing, but to do it on the big stage, like in the Premier League game or in the derby or something like that, is a different thing. I think there was no pressure on him, but that's when you have to try these things, and it's okay to get it wrong. Like I think the Conor Gallagher incident when he took a shot and went into the bush. But yeah, great strike from him. We're looking at the stats before we started. He had the most touches out of everyone, Matthias Fernandes, today.
He was everywhere, wasn't he? Yeah.
In the half an hour that we played, I think it was, a small, snippet of what we're still to see from him. But yeah, good debut. Obviously, still a preseason friendly, but yeah, it's an encouraging start.
Certainly is. Ulchi, do you want to add anything to that goal? I'll tell you what, let's have another look at it because it's a phenomenal strike. Ulchi, what did you make of this?
I mean, his first time shot, player with bundles of confidence, to basically, he approached that perfectly and he strikes it perfectly. And it was only going in one place. So fantastic strike. I mean, that would be a contender for goal of the month for sure if that was in a real, competitive game. But this is it's this kind of confidence that we want, especially in midfield. I mean, when we consider the last couple of seasons where we really struggled creating, and we really struggled. Our midfield was probably our kind of weakest point, especially this last season. I mean, of course, accepting the fact that it was partially because of the injury crisis that we had. We just didn't, have the, a lot of our best players were injured, but still, I mean, midfield was the midfield is basically the engine of any team. It's what really it's of course, especially when you play in the style that De Zerbi plays in, and the style that we want to see Tottenham play in. You need a strong midfield, which is on the turnovers, on the creation side of things. It was definitely our Achilles heel this last season, and we really struggled in that area. And I mean, I'm still blown away. Again, I still can't believe I'm pinching myself that we went and got two players like Tonali and Fernandes. I mean, even in previous seasons, probably we would have got one of them, but not both of them. So the fact that the club have gone out there and brought both of these players, I can't wait to see them together with, some of our existing better quality players, whether it's Xavi Sivers, Maddison, when Xavi comes back, obviously, Gallagher. I think those two will help improve Gallagher's game as well. I mean, it's a fantastic strike. And like I said, it's, I know I guess we all wanted to see us demolish MK Dons like 4-5-0. But I think as a first kind of match, with half the team missing that were involved in the World Cup, I think they performed well, and they only played for a half. But yeah, I think it was a good, it was a good first run out for both Fernandes and Tonali.
Yeah, Luke, coming on to you about Fernandes, Tonali, I actually thought in the short time they're on the pitch, really, let's be honest, I thought they were glimmers of them linking up really well and controlling that midfield. And yeah, look, as Ulchi said, it's the opposition. But I was quite pleased with that. And there was a lot of forward passes going on. Obviously, a lot of forward thinking going on there, which is nice to see.
Yeah, well, I think that's what, as Ulchi mentioned, we were just so desperately in need of last season. Was we so many times. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but almost every week Sky Sports was sort of reveling in the fact that they could pull up the same stat, which was that they found a player on the opposition team we were playing who had made more line-breaking passes than the entire Spurs team put together, or more through balls. And I think that just the lack of quality from about halfway point of the season, I think there was someone in every team we played who'd done more. The lack of quality in midfield, it's not that the players lacked quality, it's that they just weren't the right technical fit, and quite clearly the coaching wasn't in the right angle as well. But these lads just bring something, and I think that finish from Fernandes, and I've heard it from a lot of West Ham fans, they won't thank me for saying this, but a few of them said to me way before there were any links with Spurs, "Oh, he's special, that kid. He's got something. The way he can turn out of pressure and carry the ball forward is just really something that they hadn't seen for a few years or for a long time." And I'm just really looking forward to him getting into his stride. But the fact that we've got another player of that quality in there is just, that blows me away. I mean, in my lifetime, Tottenham Hotspur have not done that. Gone out and got two quality players to play beside each other in a starting 11. I'm not going to be negative here, but I'm going to say that I think everybody could see today that if we don't continue that, though, and get the right players in the forward line, then all that work in midfield we all know it's going to happen. We're going to have nice progression until we get to the final third. And unless somebody has a better season than a lot of us are expecting them to, we're going to struggle a little bit. It's going to be like walking through mud in the final third of the pitch. So quality in the final third does need to improve with a couple of signings before the end of the window. But otherwise, just the way in which they can play out of pressure. I mean, De Zerbi's thing is draw the pressure on, get players that are really good at playing under pressure, really good at the out balls, really good at turning out of pressure. And those lads can do it. Tonali and Fernandes are both brilliant at it. And it's going to be very different. And a lot of the things that have been said about Tonali as well, what he was like at Newcastle the last couple of years, he was playing a very different brand of football and under Howe. And Howe is a very, very good manager. But De Zerbi's football is different. And, we've got to trust that he sees what Tonali's going to be able to do and how he's going to slot into that place. So exciting times for us. Very small glimpse of it today. And I think they'll only get better.
Yeah, I agree. And Will, who's big supporter of the channel, said Luke is absolutely right. We can improve the front line massively. We will come on to discuss that at the end of the show, actually, because I think it's glaringly obvious, even from today, that things have got to get better in the forward line. I mean, I know we were still missing Kudus, we were still missing Kulusevski and Maddison, and but that left wing position, the forward position, my opinion, we need two world-class signings there, but we will come on to it. Melvin, just come round to you. Obviously, looking at this starting lineup again, we've discussed a few of the players from today. Kinski obviously didn't have much to do at all. Kept a clean sheet. I think that's probably all you can say, but didn't have much to do at all. I'm sure he'll have sterner tests to come. Seeing Ben Davies back was great, marshalling the defence. You could hear him on the stream there, marshalling the defence and talking all the time. But seeing Kota Takai and Archie, especially Archie Gray at right back again, do you think what you saw of Takai makes you think that he could force his way into Roberto De Zerbi's squad, or do you think it's going to be difficult for the likes of Takai?
I think playing against the level of opposition with respect to MK Dons, I think it's difficult to gauge the level of where these players are at. Like with Takai, you think, okay, he's decent, but you need to see him against higher level opposition. I think the same can be said. I'm about to praise. I think we're gonna get to it. Luca Williams-Barnett. I thought he was insane what the kid did. But again, he was playing MK Dons. MK Dons are in not the championship. They're, I think, one division below. Correct? League One. Right.
League One.
This is not even a championship level team. So you need to look at it. It's a preseason friendly. They're looking at it. They want to give the players a runabout. I think it gets quite boring when they're constantly doing these fitness tests, all gauged around running. They just want to give them 45 minutes, play with the ball, try to score, try to have some fun, gain some fitness. And it's difficult. So it's always difficult to gauge, where the team is at, where certain players are at. With Takai, I just don't think he's at that level yet. I think there's a difference between, I don't know, like Archie Gray and Takai. There's a massive difference between the two. I think you can see it. I think even in some of the videos Spurs have done with the training sessions, I think I've noticed him on the ball. The way he passes, it's not as smooth. His touches are not as quick as perhaps some of the other lads. I think he still needs to go on loan. I think he was bought, by Johan Lange through data, and they picked him up from the league of having been a standout player, and he didn't really cost much, and he was one of those players. He reminds me kind of like how we bought Valise. They bought him kind of like out of nowhere. They had this data on this player that he was maybe standing out in some metrics, and they took a punt and it didn't pay off, and eventually they sold him. And I kind of see him in the same bracket, sadly enough, as they took a punt on this player. I could be, proven wrong. You never know. He could turn out to be a massive player for Tottenham, but at the moment, I just don't see it.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree, Melvin. Ulchi, let's come around to you. Just a player that we haven't seen in the Spurs shirt for a long time, Manor Solomon. Did you see anything from Solomon today to make you think that he could be going on the pre-season tour?
I think he looked like he was trying. There's a number of times where he actually ran all the way back to help defense. There was like once or twice where MK Dons were on the break and he literally ran the length of the pitch to get back and defend. And he looked like he was trying, but I don't know whether that was to impress obviously Roberto De Zerbi to give him a chance, or whether that was to maybe there's some other coaches there, or he's trying to obviously get on the radar of some other teams. But he did look like he was trying. There was a couple of times when he was trying to do. He's a funny one. His overall physique, if you look at him, actually, he's quite a short little player, and he's almost like that kind of Maradona type physique-wise, not skills, but physique-wise, he's kind of that type of player. And a couple of times he was trying to do a few little dribbles, and he kind of went past 2-3 MK Don players, but then he would lose the ball. So I think he was trying hard, and again, it just comes down to, was he trying hard to impress De Zerbi, or is he trying hard to impress De Zerbi to give him a chance, or is he just trying hard, hoping to get a transfer, whether it's probably it would be this time it would be a permanent transfer, because he's been on our books for about three seasons now, 4 seasons I think we've had him, and he's been going out on loan. But I mean, yeah, again, he didn't do anything that was super impressive. It looked like he was trying hard. It looked like he was giving it a go. But there wasn't really any kind of end product, at least bits. Because again, my connection was going in and out, so I was missing little chunks of the first half, unfortunately. But from the bits that I did see of the first half, yeah. So I mean, we definitely need to get in. As you guys mentioned earlier, I think we definitely need a left-sided player, because I mean, Tel can play both sides, right or the left. And with some of the players that we've been linked to in the last couple of weeks, whether it's Savinho or Krupi or some other names that have been mentioned, I mean, we really want to, because we also have Kudus. I mean, I've seen a number of really encouraging videos where he looks like he's close to coming back. I thought he was going to be out at least for the first couple of months of the season, but it looks like maybe he might be ready for the start of the season from some of the videos that I've seen this week of him doing.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, because if he's back, especially let's say for the start of the season, I mean, was it the 22nd of August is the start of the season? So he's got pretty much about a month to, get back on track, get fitness, match fitness, maybe play in some of the latter parts of the preseason games. So if we can get Kudus back, if we can get a top left-sided player, I think, I mean, unless he does amazingly well, I'm talking about Solomon, in the preseason games, I don't know if he's going to be taken on preseason, but I would not be surprised if he's not, because, I think I've got a feeling that, they're trying to find a club, the club for him. So he's probably one of the players that is going to be, let go.
Yeah, I have to tend to agree. I mean, I just think he's not quite at the standard that you would want for your forward line. And you mentioned Kudus there. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned him, because it wouldn't actually surprise me if he doesn't go on the pre-season tour. And I don't mean that because he doesn't deserve to, but if he's building up his fitness and they don't think he's going to be ready for those 3 games, then why take him? Let him continue his work back at Hotspur way. But let's see how that pans out. Well, that's Roberto De Zerbi looking the most relaxed, and you usually see him, they said in the commentary, sort of like you used to see him jumping around on the sideline, and he was the most unanimated I think I've ever seen him. Luke, just before we move on to the second half and the wholesale changes at half time, Solanke, for you today in that first half, did you see much of him? Did he do anything that impressed you, or do you think it was more of the same as what we saw last season, sadly?
Well, my stream was very poor in the first half, so it kept cutting in and out.
Same as everyone.
Yeah, it was very difficult to watch. And then obviously he wasn't on in the second half. I mean, there was one chance, obviously, where it was whipped in and he managed to get on the end of his got a touch off his shin, and the keeper was right there to collect it. I think that what Spurs need a bit more of, actually, and this is something that is a big hole, that Harry Kane left, and it's obvious to say that it's not just the goals, it's the way in which he would hold up play, and also be able to distribute as well. And I think that what we saw today from both Richarlison and from Solanke is an inability for either of them to do that. Last season, when we lacked technical quality, both in the midfield and on the wings, to be frank, for most of the season, having a number 9 that can't hold the ball up and cannot also lay it off particularly well is disastrous, because it means that we are losing possession within seconds of trying to get up the pitch. The thing is, I've seen Solanke do it. I'm sure in his first season he was doing it quite well. I'm sure he's done it before for Bournemouth. Perhaps for Bournemouth he was playing with a lot more space in the front line, because the teams they were playing against maybe gave them a bit more room than they would with Spurs. But I just think that he and Richarlison in that first half just not enough, really. And that's what we really need. We need a better distributor up front. But he is a good player. There's definitely a really good player there. He's shown us that in the past. I mean, some of his performances, I think back to his performance against Frankfurt in the Europa League. I mean, that was, for me, one of his best performances, and I don't think he won the penalty, didn't he? But didn't score. So, no, sorry, Maddison won the penalty. He scored it. I just, there's a player there. I just think that since he started getting injured, we've not seen it, and we didn't really see much again today. If that was anything to go by.
Yeah. It's a funny one with Solanke, isn't it? But you would think, I mean, out of the two, you would have to think it's Richarlison that moves on, but we need to obviously to get somebody in to replace him. Talking about replacements, there was wholesale changes in that second half. Dubravka came in goal. Kieran Matten actually stayed on the pitch. I know we didn't really discuss him, but I thought he was half decent at left back in the first half. Hardy, Hall and Byrne, and then Yang-Min Hyuk on the right, Donnelly and Williams Barnett, who we've discussed in the middle, Mikey Moore on the left, Richarlison and Dane Scarlett. They've got this kind of as 4-4-2. I'm not sure it was quite that sort of lineup, but Melvin, come around to you on this. Anybody you were particularly pleased to see that came on in that second half?
Yeah, I wanted to see Mikey Moore. after a really, really good loan. I was excited to see, he looked a bit more developed, a bit bigger, stronger.
Bigger
And
haircut.
yeah, apparently Donnelly has been impressing in training. Scarlett's been, hit or miss. I think Scarlett, I was a bit disappointed in. I think when Jose was here and gave him his debut, there was a lot of excitement about him, and not really turned out the player that I expected or was hoping for. I think Luca Williams-Barnett, I think, was probably the show of the second half. I think he had the most take-ons and successful dribbles out of everyone, out of the entire squad. I think he had 2 or 3, something like that. I saw a stat online. I think Richarlison didn't get much service, was quite quiet.
He did miss a glorious chance on 50 minutes, if anybody wants to watch that.
With Richarlison, I think it's the same story. I think he's the type of player that I think he needs 2 or 3 chances before he buries one, and it's always the same thing with him. He will get you goals, but I don't know what the season is what's going to happen with him. Ideally, I think depending on incomings, you move him on, but I think with Richie, he's a good option to have off the bench if we keep him. With the rest, I don't know a few of the players. I didn't know the left back and the right back, for example. So they were new to me, but the rest were okay. Dubravka made a nice save on the second half.
Yeah, he did.
Was fouled in the box for one of their goals that was ruled out. But I think other than that, other than Williams-Barnett, was that was the most impressive thing for me.
Yeah, definitely. Ulchi, Melvin mentioned Mikey Moore there. Yeah. I did a video about Mikey Moore saying that could he be the answer to our left wing problems? Do you think there's an argument to say Mikey Moore could be the answer to our left wing sort of woes, or did you see anything today to think? Obviously, he did miss a glorious chance at the end, but anybody can miss chances like that. Do you think he's got the capability of being that wow player?
On the showing of today, I haven't seen enough. I was actually a bit disappointed. I expected a little bit more from him today, if I have to be honest. Simply because obviously he definitely had a very good season last season in Scotland, and based on that, I would have thought he would definitely be one of those players who were, biting at the chance to really get out there and show De Zerbi, look, this is what I'm about, this is what I can do, and really be out there to impress. And like you guys said, I mean, my 2 kind of standout performances for the second, I mean, not standout, but my 2 that stood out to me in the second half were, I agree, definitely Williams-Barnett. I mean, I've made a quick note here, but I was actually also, I thought Hardy in the center of defense actually did a good job. He marshaled the defense really well. A lot of the attacks, or kind of, they didn't really have many attacks, but the kind of, it was more from our right-hand side, MK Don's left-hand side. There were a number of attacks that came from that side. And every single time, Hardy was quite solid, and he broke down together with some of the midfield players. Those guys broke down the attacks really, really well. I thought, Hardy was solid. Again, the quality of the opposition wasn't great, but I would say the 2 players that did stand out to me from the second half, from the reserve pool, was Williams-Barnett and Hardy. And just coming back to your actual main question, which was Mikey Moore, yeah, I need to see more from him. And again, in fairness, the first game in pre-season, he played, 45 minutes. It'll be interesting to see if De Zerbi takes him, on the road, to New Zealand, Australia, and how much he's part of the pre-season. I think he's got a good opportunity. I agree. He looks like he's bulked up a little bit. He looks a bit more mature. He looks a bit more a bit more, stronger. But I definitely would like to see more from him. I think, we should still be searching out there for targets for that left side. Because I think definitely, I mean, with, we, even after Son left, we've not really addressed that left-hand side. That left-hand side I think is our weakest side, and we need to get a quality player. And who knows, if Mikey Moore does well, maybe he can be the understudy. Maybe he can be, because I think certainly, for example, Odebear is going to be out for quite a while because he's got an ACL as well. So probably Odebear and Xavi Simons are, they're probably not going to be back, at least for the first half of the season. Probably we're looking at sort of November, December at the earliest when those guys are going to be back. So we definitely need some, cover on the left. And I think we should go out there. Some of these names that have been mentioned, like Savinho or whoever, again, another good player. But depending on how his performances are for the rest of the preseason, maybe Moore could be the backup to whoever we sign for the left-hand side of the midfield.
Luke, you made some good points there about Mikey Moore. About he could be a backup. We'll come on to the players that we think, we want to see come in on that left wing. Just talking about the other players in this starting lineup, we've kind of touched on Jamie Donnelly. I thought Jamie Donnelly played pretty solid game. Williams Barnett we've discussed obviously as well in that central hub. But anybody else really stand out for you today in that second half?
I thought the movement was interesting between, if you look at the formation that is put up there, I mean, Richarlison, Scarlett and Yang were sort of moving. They were sort of quite fluid. They were moving around in different positions. They weren't occupying one singular space. And Yang did quite well to get, like, Scarlett burst down the wing, I think about 4 or 5 times, and put a cross in that didn't quite get to someone. Yang was making a couple of good runs onto the end of them. But other than that, I think nobody took a chance to be spectacular today. But I think maybe De Zerbi's got quite specific plans with them. I mean, am I right in saying that's quite a different formation as well to the first half, maybe? A little bit different in midfield, or at least the way that it's presented there. So, they sort of seem to be a bit fluid in their movement, but not really linking up. And it's because they haven't played together. These guys are, all of them, like, haven't actually been on a football pitch and played together other than a bit of training at the start of the season. So you expect them to be a bit rusty and not have that kind of fluency of thought, knowing that someone's going to run on beyond them or whatever. But they were trying it. Scarlett was quick. His pace looked good. So that was positive. And obviously big questions for him because he's getting a bit older, and whether or not he should go and pursue a career elsewhere, or whether we should really start integrating him into the first team. But I thought that I really liked, I know we've already mentioned it, but Williams Barnett and the way he just sort of drives with the ball, I really, really like that, because I think teams hate playing against players who are really, really positive, driving forward with the ball. They turn and they move into space, because for someone like what De Zerbi likes, he likes to put teams under pressure. He likes to invite them, bait the press, and move teams around. That will just shift anyone about, and he just looked like he didn't care who he was playing today. And I know it was not very high level opposition, but I think if he had games in the Premier League, or at least in one of the cup competitions, I think I would love to see him doing that to teams, because I think sometimes I feel, and I've felt this before, maybe not with the squad we seem to be building, but I'm sure you'll agree with me, in the past, when we've really needed something to change in a game, you look at the bench and you think, who is going to bring a bit of spark and actually change something? Might be a bit different this year, but I feel like he's the sort of player today. He showed, if you imagine that was a substitute performance, 45 minutes, driving into space like that and moving the opposition around. If the forwards were a bit sharper and a little bit more practiced in their positioning, I'm sure it would have created more chances. So I would love to see him get a good chance and go on the tour and play some more minutes. I think he's a massive talent. We've been moving some talented players on recently, and I do wonder if a couple of those today might also be be up for moving. But I don't think anyone like massively stood out other than the ones we've mentioned, really.
No, I tend to agree, but you're right. Williams Barnett, I thought, was fantastic in that second half, and I thought Jamie Donnelly was good as well. And Dubravka, as we say, we touched on it earlier, made an absolutely brilliant save towards the end of the game, tipped it over the bar. Look, it was just a friendly, is what it is, but it's good to get a win. Obviously, of course it is, but there'll be tougher tests to come. I do hope that Spurs sort out Spurs play, because it sounds like everybody around the world, no matter where you were, had massive problems with the app today. I think it's since the integration into the Spurs official app, it actually seems to have got worse. I know Orchie said you managed to get in on a web browser in the end. I think that's what we had to do. But it needs to be improved. You're paying extra for this, a lot of people like myself, and you're not getting the product that you were sold. And it was a pretty poor feed anyway when I did get it, but hopefully Spurs will sort that out. Right, let's move on to the transfer window. I think we're done with the game. There wasn't much else you could discuss, really. Melvin, come round to you. So you've seen the players that we've brought in so far. You've seen the players we've let go so far. What does Spurs still need to do? Because I'll give you what I think we need to do. We need a striker and we need a left winger, and anybody else after that is gravy. If we get the right players in those two positions, I would fully sit here and say I think that's a 10 out of 10 window. Who do we need? Who do you want to see coming in?
I don't know, because I'm never really good at these things. When you ask me like who I want, because
what positions then? What positions, Melvin? If you were Roberto De Zerbi,
it's obviously the positions you mentioned, left wing and striker. For me personally, and this is my opinion, I would have taken a punt on Rafa Leao from AC Milan, because I know what he could do. I've been watching AC Milan for years. I've been watching him. And I think the season they won the league, he was incredible. Obviously, there was Tonali there as well. So there's that chemistry. But I think speaking to AC Milan fans, and I know what Rafa Leao is like, he's probably one of the most frustrating players to have. He has sort of the mentality of Ndombele in a way. So saying that, it's like you want to stay clear of him, but you think De Zerbi would, light a fire underneath him and get the best out of him, because I think AC Milan don't value him that much anymore. I think they would let him go for maybe 50, 60 million euros. I think he's better than Savinho, in my opinion. I think he's made for the Premier League. I think we need someone with raw pace. I think we need speed into the team. You know how we have Spence and how he played with England, that I think we miss, a Gareth Bale and Aaron Lennon. We need more speed into this team. I think we have physicality for the first time in years, proper physicality. I think we have a spine, but now we need, obviously we have Kudus, who is very fast. I think but you don't know what kind of Kudus you're going to get back, and because I think it's worse when you injure an injury that you're trying to recover from. I think that's always a really bad sign. Hopefully he comes back as the same player, maybe even better. And obviously a striker. There's Vlahovic, who you could do, I think, later on in the window, because he's a free transfer, and I think Spurs know that, and they might have him in the back of their minds that they can do the deal quite quickly, because the wages won't be a problem. It's just, sign-on fee and whatever the agent wants, and I think the wages, they can really do that quite quickly. Is he, a 20-goalless, a season striker, Vlahovic? I don't know. There was a time where everyone wanted him. When he was at Fiorentina, I think he was hyped so much and overrated so much, and ended up going to Juventus on massive wages. And Juve fans are happy to see him go, which is a bad sign, but I think in a weird way, I trust I was going to say Paratici. I trust Johan and De Zerbi to get the right players. I think it's a good sign we're selling in a weird way. I just think, yes, at this point, there's one of them is about to be a superstar, the ones we're selling and letting go quite early in their career. I mean, I would have loved to see Vuskovic here. I think Lancashire is probably, better than what we currently have, potentially. You never know. It's better to just let them go, develop, because they need game time in this moment of this career. I think Scarlett should have been sold years ago for the same reasons. His career kind of stagnated, kind of got stuck. They need to be playing. They need to be playing, 30 games a season. You just think, even with Bergvall, I'm not opposed to see him go. I think Bergvall and Fernandes at 18, they had the same profile. I think the difference is Fernandes played, was it one season with West Ham or two, and then Southampton. He's had 2-3 seasons in the Premier League, playing week in, week out, having the opportunity even to get it wrong sometimes, learn from it, make mistakes, get better the season. And I think that's what they need. These players need to be playing, 30 games a season, 35 games a season, 38 games, 40. They need to be playing all the time. And I think selling them we're quietly making up all the money we've spent. It's just I think that's insane. I think we've recouped nearly 90 million from selling, players that done nothing for us last season, absolutely nothing. So it's not a massive, and it's. I think this window's blown my mind. What we've done, is it because Levy's not there? Maybe, potentially, probably. Is it because we have Rafi Morrison now, who's nicknamed the closer? Maybe. I don't know, but I used to say, Craig, this years ago. I used to say I loved Postecoglou, so I used to say I feel that we're in good hands. But now we have Roberto De Zerbi. Now I really feel we're in good hands. I think he's a proper coach, and I sleep easy. I'm relaxed. This is the first window in years in the summer at this time that I'm relaxed, that I'm happy, that I am buzzing for the season. Like, honestly, I'm looking at flights, looking at dates, looking at fixtures. Last season was the first season that I did not attend a football match under Thomas Frank because I was so uninspired. I was so unhappy. My last football game was the Cup final, the Europa League Cup final in Bilbao. I've not been to a game since then. So this season, I'm already absolutely buzzing to be back. And I trust that the football club will get it right. It's a shame to see some of these kids go because you love to see academy players come in. But that's what I think will happen. I think we'll spend just as big on two players as we did with, the midfield too.
I think that's all we all want to hear. I mean, Roberto De Zerbi, talking to Spurs Play, said, I think we are building a very good team with some very important new players, and we start in the project in another part of the history of the club. I spent a lot of time understanding the club before joining in April, and I knew very well the ideas of the owner of the club, and the plan was clear before the Everton game. We are now inside the project. We are excited with the idea to build a very strong team. Now we have to finish, as it's not finished yet, our transfer market in and out. But at the moment, I'm very happy, very proud, and very positive to build a soul, to build a new team with the qualities for sure, but with soul, with passion, with all the values we have. Football now is not just on the pitch. It's not just with the ball. It's before, in the private life. It's how many hours during the day you think you're doing your job, and they have to be happy and proud to stay in Tottenham. It's really good words, which you have to say from our manager. And to be honest, and people say that I'm always kicking Thomas Frank, but let's be honest, it's much better to hear things like that than somebody who comes out in their first press conference and says, we will lose football matches. I think it's a massive sea change from what we've been used to. As Melvin said, this transfer window has got me excited. I still think there's a long way to go. I still think we need those two players. For you, what positions do we need to fill and who would you bring in? Because just to give you where I'm at with it, I think bringing in Savinho shows intent. I'm still not convinced that Savinho is better than what we've perhaps even got on the books at the moment. I think we need to take it to that extra level. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
I kind of mentioned, I mean, I think just quickly mentioning, I think obviously we all suffered last season. I mean, yes, the previous season we finished 17th, but we were never really in danger of being in the relegation thing. We just lost, obviously Ange, prioritized the Europa League, and we just lost, match after match after match, and eventually we kind of slipped down to 17th. So we were never really in danger of going down. But last season there was obviously a real danger, and we only got out of it at the end of in the last game, basically. And I think in a way, even though we all suffered terribly, I think in a way that also is a blessing. It kind of turned out to be a blessing in disguise because things got so bad, and because the club finally realized that even bringing in, the interim manager, and it was just ridiculous. What they just kept making mistake after mistake, and I'm pretty certain that Roberto De Zerbi said, "Look, okay, I'm willing to accept. I'm willing to come, and even if we do get relegated, I will still remain, only if basically you let me build a team that I want." And we're seeing the kind of the fruits of that. I mean, look at the business that we've done so far. So I think, in a way, it has been a blessing in disguise. I mean, and clearly, obviously, De Zerbi is an experienced, he's a highly rated manager. And in those sort of last 7-8 games where he was in the club, he would have seen, and I mean, from what he said, he was probably, because I think the club approached him before, in fact, and I think he turned it down. But probably he kept an eye on the club and the players, and so he probably had a bit of an idea before he came in eventually. But I mean, he clearly knows what Tottenham need, and now clearly we're going after players who are proven in the Premier League, who are going to take this team up several levels, and that's definitely the caliber of player we need to be going after. I agree with you. I'm also, Savinho hasn't set the world on fire, and I agree with you that there is an argument there that does he really improve us, take us another step? Big question mark. But I think I can't remember if it was Melvin or Luke. I think it might have been Luke. I think when you look at some of our best teams, we always had wingers who would be attacking defenders, attacking teams, their midfield and their defense. And when, opposition teams are on the back foot, that's when you get the most opportunities. That's when you get players, you can, with your movement, you can get them, out of position and create plenty of chances. And that's something that we've lacked in recent years. We want to have those kind of, like, even in sort of the previous peak team of, Son, peak Son, peak Kane, peak Ericsson, peak, that period, on the peak, Poch years, that's what we were brilliant at. We were brilliant at literally, it was just wave after wave after wave of really good interchanging and really good attacking and getting opposition defenders on the back foot, and scoring plenty of goals. And, arguably that's when we got closest to winning some big, silverware. So we really need to kind of rebuild this team. And I think they've made definitely a good start. We definitely need a top striker, a top finisher for sure. I think out of the two that we have between Richarlison and Solanke, personally, I know some people say, well, Richarlison gets goals, Solanke. I think Solanke is the better player compared to Richarlison. Richarlison, yes, he gets goals, but for most of the game, he's so frustrating. He can't really hold the ball. He very rarely plays other players in. He's a bit of a waste in a lot of the matches that he plays. Yes, every now and then he pops up, he scores a goal or maybe a couple of goals in a game, but it's not consistent. If he was consistent like that every single game, he'll be a brilliant striker, but he's not. And I think his time is up. I think we need to move on Richarlison and bring in a top finisher, especially now this season, hopefully with Kudus coming back. And if we can then also buy a really fantastic left-sided player that's also going to run at defenses, run those channels, and overlapping from midfield, and creating those chances. I think we're definitely going to be creating those chances for whoever our sort of number 9 and number 10 is going to be. Just a straight answer. I think we definitely need a really, really good finisher. We need a really good striker who's going to come in, probably going to be first choice, and we need the left-sided player. I know a lot of people are probably saying the same thing, but I think that's kind of like the final pieces of the puzzle, really, to give us that balance. Because those are the two things. Because on the right, definitely, I think Kudus. The problem with, even when Kudus was fit, unfortunately, because of the previous managers and the system of Thomas Frank, and it seemed to be like, pass the ball to Kudus. Kudus would just run, but there would not be the quality of players to either play passes to, and he would just hold on to the ball far too long. Whereas with this team, with the midfield that's been built, and De Zerbi's way of playing, I think definitely there's going to be a lot of interchanges. There's going to be a lot of transitions and overlapping players, players running into spaces, making opposition players move out of position. So that's going to create, I think, some really, really good opportunities for a good finisher. So I think you're going to definitely see a different Tottenham this upcoming season. And so, I think those are the two main areas. I would still keep Solanke as maybe the backup, the secondary, striker. But I would definitely say sell Richarlison, to maybe generate some more income. Obviously we know Vicario is probably going to go. We know Romero's definitely going. Everyone's, including Romano, has said the same. So. I think we're going to have some. We're definitely. I think we're pretty much sorted in defense. We don't need to worry about defense. We don't need to worry about centre midfield. So really, and probably right-sided players. We've got Kudus. Tell can play right and left. Xavi Simons, when he comes back, he can play a number 10 role, or he can. He's in several games. He started on the left as well, and he does well cutting in and playing balls in, etc. So I think once some of our injured players come back, obviously Kulusevski. Who knows what the deal is with him? But depending on some of our other players that are going to come back, I think, a striker and a left-sided player is a must. And we want to get really, really top quality players in that. And if we can get those two positions sorted, I think we've got an incredible season ahead with the business that we've got.
Luke, who's that left winger and striker going to be? And are we going to get him over the line?
I'd really like to see. I quite like Guirassy at. I think he's at Dortmund. I think that's how you say his name. Because I think Krupi is obviously extremely talented. I'd love to see him. They call him Baby Mbappe, don't they? But I think Bournemouth are going to dig their heels in on that. And I don't know. He's quite young, super talented, but I think that Guirassy's height and strength and experience in European football for the future as well. If we get back there, I'm sure we will. He would be a great signing. He's one of those players who his sort of like his gait and his movement reminds me a bit of, the best performances we used to see of Freddie Canute and that sharpness in the box. I really like that about him. So he would be someone I'd like. Left wing, I actually think whoever the manager thinks, if it's Savinho, if he's convinced by his statistics and that he can fit into that role, it should be him. Even if people have watched him at City and gone, oh, he's not done much, he's not done this. Different manager, different team, different demands. he's played at other clubs. He did well at PSV, and he used to play a lot with. He sort of grew up with Xavi, didn't he, at PSV? So that would be a good link up when he comes back. So I wouldn't be sad to see him come in either. I think that would be a good signing. I don't know. On the left, I'm not. I know Leao is popular with a lot of people. From what I've read, he's got some attitude problems that I think could make him a big question mark about whether or not he would be disruptive in a squad. And there's perhaps a reason why nobody has gone in for him for the last 2 years, despite the fact that his agent seems to be keen to get him to move. So there's something about him that's not quite right, despite, as Melvin said earlier, his clear sort of talent and ability. And we saw some of that in the Euros as well. Otherwise, I think the key thing is what Tottenham need to do is be ambitious, be aggressive. They've started like that. Pinching players off other Premier League teams is something we haven't seen at all, really, or very often. So I think they've got to be aggressive and go for someone spectacular. I think otherwise, mediocrity is not the way forward. To start like that in the midfield and then just drop it off up front. Vlahovic is clearly a talented forward as well, but again, in a really weird state in the last few years, in limbo where no one seems to want him. So, I think somebody who's got talent and the manager sees fitting in. He's very clear. He's very clear about who he wants and what he wants from them. We've seen it before with the signings he's got. We've seen it so far with the signings he's got. De Zerbi has a style of play. He wants to play a certain way. He pitches that to them. It seems to work for them. They're all in on it once he speaks to them. So it's, we can want whoever we like, but we might be surprised by who De Zerbi wants to go for. I just hope we don't flop about and try and get a cut deal with someone, which doesn't, there's no evidence that we're doing that so far. We seem to be operating differently, which is good. But in the past, it was always about not being aggressive enough, losing opportunities, and then going for who was available. And that is why we've got a squad full of players still, even now, that really we need to move on. I was just trying to make a list of players that could move on. I mean, we've generated apparently 125 million in sales so far, and we haven't yet sold Solomon, Sarr, Vicario, Romero, Richarlison, and it looks like Bergvall is also going to be on the way out. I mean, that could be another almost 200 million pounds worth of sales. So there's no reason why they shouldn't go and blow Bournemouth out the water for Krupi. If De Zerbi feels that's the man he really wants, they should just go and say, yeah, we respect that you want him, but here's 125 million quid, take it now or leave it. And I really don't think Bournemouth will turn that down at that point. So I want to see Spurs be aggressive. I want to see them go for the man that De Zerbi wants, and that's it. And I'll back who that ends up being, whether... that's someone I know or I have no idea who it is. And like with Savinho, I've seen a lot of fans feel they're not convinced about him because of Premier League performances, but he's clearly talented. He clearly will do something that De Zerbi wants, and that's the key.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope. That would be lovely to see the Spurs go in and blow anybody out of the water. And certainly for Krupi, I'd love to see it. If they're saying, well, no, we want X amount. The Spurs say, well, here's 100 million. There we go. You make your mind up now, because the player's keen on the move, apparently. But look, that's for another day. Let's hope Spurs can continue to make brilliant signings this transfer window. Next up for the club, 4:00 kickoff UK time, is on Sunday in Auckland against Auckland. So anybody who's getting up to watch that, good luck. If you're in that part of the world, well done. I'm sure you're going to be seeing hopefully a better game than we saw today. But look, it is pre-season. It'd be interesting to see what the lineup is, though. Definitely against Auckland. We've got games coming up thick and fast, as we've said earlier. And let's hope Spurs can continue to progress under De Zerbi and us get the players in that we all want to see. Melvin, Archie and Luke, thanks so much for joining me today. I'll let you carry on and get on with your evenings, what's left of them. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. We'll see you again soon with another podcast. I'm sure there'll be one after the Auckland game. As always, come on, you Spurs.